I came home from my hospital shift to find a stranger eating my leftover pizza, smoking weed on my balcony. And when I told him to get out, he laughed and said he legally lived there now. That's when I knew my sister had set me up. What I discovered on my security camera 3 days later made me call the police immediately. But let me back up and tell you how my own sister trapped me in this nightmare. My name is Jackie, and I'm a 27-year-old nurse in Portland. I worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital and finally saved enough to rent my own one-bedroom apartment downtown. The rent was $1,800 a month, but it was mine. After sharing cramped spaces my whole life, having my own place felt like winning the lottery. Then my sister Callie called me crying. "Jackie, please," she sobbed into the phone. "Derek dumped me and kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. Mom and Dad already said no." Callie was 4 years younger than me and had always been the wild one. Bad boyfriends, quit jobs, never saved money. But she was still my little sister. "Okay," I said, already knowing I'd regret it. "But we need rules." She arrived the next day with 2 beat-up suitcases and promises to turn her life around. I made her sign a simple roommate agreement, pay $600 rent each month, help with bills and groceries, no overnight guests without asking, no smoking or drinking in the apartment, find your own place within 6 months. "This is perfect," Callie said, signing the paper. "You'll see. I'm going to change everything." For exactly 3 weeks, she did great. Got a job at a coffee shop, kept things clean, even cooked dinner twice. I started thinking maybe I'd been too hard on her before. Then she met Brandon. I'll never forget walking into my apartment that Tuesday night. I'd just worked a brutal 12-hour shift dealing with 2 cardiac arrests and a car accident victim. All I wanted was quiet and my leftover pizza. Instead, I found a skinny guy with greasy hair sprawled on my couch eating my food and watching Netflix on my TV. "Hey," he mumbled without looking up. "Jackie," Callie bounced over. "This is Brandon. Brandon, meet my sister Jackie." The guy barely nodded. He looked like he hadn't showered in days. His clothes were wrinkled and dirty, and he was eating my pizza like he owned the place. "Nice to meet you," I said through gritted teeth. "Callie, can we talk?" In my bedroom, I closed the door. We agreed no overnight guests. "He's not staying over," she said quickly. "His roommate is having a party, so he needed somewhere quiet." I wanted to believe her. "Okay, but next time ask first." "Of course. Thanks for being cool about this." But Brandon didn't leave that night, or the next night. By day 4, he'd moved his Xbox into my living room and was using my shower like it was his personal spa. "Callie, what's going on?" I asked. "He's having roommate problems," she explained. "It's just temporary." "What do you mean by temporary? How temporary?" "A few weeks, maybe a month. But what I found on my security camera made me realize this was much worse than I thought. I'd installed a small camera in my living room after my neighbor mentioned seeing strange people coming and going from my apartment. I thought maybe Callie was having friends over when I worked nights. What I saw on the footage made my blood run cold. Brandon wasn't just staying there. He was running some kind of operation. During the day when Callie worked and I was at the hospital, he had a steady stream of visitors. People I'd never seen before would show up, stay for 10 minutes, then leave. And Brandon always walked them to the door with small packages. He was dealing drugs from my apartment. I watched 3 days of footage, same pattern every day. Different people, same quick visits, same small exchanges. Brandon was using my home as his personal drugstore, but that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was watching Callie come home one day, see what was happening, and not only ignore it, but help him count money on my kitchen table. My own sister knew her boyfriend was dealing drugs from my apartment and didn't care. That's when I started planning. I confronted Callie that night after Brandon left to meet some friends. "I know what Brandon's doing here during the day," I said. Her face went white. "What do you mean?" "The constant visitors, the quick exchanges, the money you were counting yesterday." "Jackie, I can explain. He's dealing drugs from my apartment, and you know about it." Callie's scared expression quickly turned angry. "You've been spying on us?" "I've been protecting myself. This is my home, Callie, my lease, my job on the line if we get caught. Nothing's going to happen. Are you insane? I'm a nurse. If I get arrested for drug dealing, I lose my license forever. I lose everything. Brandon's not dealing drugs, she said, but her voice shook. He's just helping people out. Helping people out with what? She couldn't answer. Both of you need to leave, now. We can't just leave. Brandon doesn't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem anymore. But Callie wasn't done fighting. Actually, Jackie, you can't just kick us out. Brandon's been living here for over a month. He has rights now. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Brandon looked it up. In Oregon, if someone lives somewhere for 30 days, they become a legal tenant. You have to give us proper notice. That's when I realized this had all been planned. The timing, the excuses, even Brandon's research into tenant laws. They'd been setting me up from day one. Fine, I said. Then I'll give you proper notice. But what happened next made me realize they had no intention of leaving quietly. The morning after our fight, I woke up to find my bedroom door standing open. I always kept it locked when I slept, but somehow it was open. My laptop was gone. So was my grandmother's jewelry and about $300 in cash I kept in my dresser. I found Callie in the kitchen making breakfast like nothing happened. Did someone break in last night? I asked. Break in? No, why? Someone stole my laptop, my jewelry, and my cash. Callie's face didn't change. That's weird. Maybe you misplaced them? I didn't misplace my laptop, Callie. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Brandon walked out of the bathroom at that moment, and I swear he smirked at me. Morning, Jackie, he said. Sleep well? That's when I knew for sure they'd stolen from me, but I also knew they'd made a huge mistake, because stealing from me gave me something I'd needed all along, a reason to call the police. I called in sick to work and spent the entire day gathering evidence. I downloaded all the security footage showing Brandon's drug dealing operation. I photographed my scattered belongings and the obvious signs someone had searched through my room. Then I called the police. I need to report a theft and suspected drug dealing, I told the officer who answered. Officer Martinez arrived 30 minutes later. She was a middle-aged Hispanic woman who listened carefully as I explained the situation. So your sister and her boyfriend have been living here without being on the lease? She asked. Right. And I have video evidence of him dealing drugs from my apartment. I showed her the security footage. Her expression grew serious as she watched Brandon's daily parade of visitors. This is definitely suspicious activity, she said. And the theft? I showed her my ransacked bedroom and the list of missing items. The problem is proving who took your things, she explained. Since they live here, they had access. But they're not supposed to live here. They're unauthorized occupants. That's a civil matter. You'll need to go through the eviction process. What about the drug dealing? That's criminal. I'll file a report and pass it to Narcotics Division. Before she left, Officer Martinez gave me advice that changed everything. Document everything, she said. Every interaction, every incident. And be careful. When people are backed into a corner, they sometimes do desperate things. She was right about the desperate part. That afternoon, Brandon confronted me in my own living room. You called the cops on me? His voice was low and dangerous. I reported a theft. You're trying to get me arrested. I'm trying to protect myself and my home. Brandon stepped closer. He was taller than me and had this look in his eyes that made my skin crawl. You have no idea who you're messing with, he said quietly. I have friends who don't like people who snitch. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. Back off or things might get complicated for you. I kept my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. Get out of my face, Brandon. This is my home too now. I'm not going anywhere. That night I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. I realized I was scared in my own apartment, and that was unacceptable. The next morning I made 2 phone calls that would change everything. First, I called a tenant rights lawyer named David Haas. I need to evict unauthorized occupants who are dealing drugs and stealing from me, I explained. Do you have evidence? Video footage, police reports, documentation of everything? Good. In Oregon, you can serve a 24-hour notice for illegal activity. If they don't leave, we file for immediate eviction. 24 hours? Not 30 days? Drug dealing voids their residency claims. This becomes a public safety issue. My second call was to my landlord, Mrs. Daniels. "Jackie, I'm so sorry this is happening," she said. "Yes, having drug dealers in the building violates your lease and puts everyone at risk. You need to resolve this immediately." She gave me permission to pursue any legal action necessary, including calling the police if I felt threatened. Armed with legal backing, I prepared to serve Brandon and Callie with official notice. But what I discovered that evening made me realize I was dealing with people far more dangerous than I'd imagined. I came home from work to find my apartment full of strangers. 7 people I'd never seen before were sitting around my living room, and the air reeked of marijuana. Brandon was in my kitchen, weighing small bags of what looked like pills on my food scale. "What the hell is this?" I shouted. Everyone looked up. Brandon calmly continued his work. "Business meeting," he said. "Don't worry about it. Get everyone out, now." "Actually, Jackie," one of the strangers said, standing up, "Brandon told us you were cool with this." The guy was massive. Tattoos covered his arms and neck. He looked like he could snap me in half. "Well, Brandon lied," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "This is my apartment, and you all need to leave." "See, that's where you're wrong," the big guy said, stepping closer. "Brandon pays rent here. That makes this his place, too." "Brandon doesn't pay rent." "He pays me," Callie said from the couch. I stared at my sister. "What?" "Brandon gives me money and I pay you, so technically he does pay rent." "That's not how any of this works, Callie." "Actually," Brandon said, still weighing drugs on my scale, "it's exactly how it works. I'm a subtenant. You can look it up." I realized they'd been planning this conversation. They had answers ready for everything. "Everyone out," I said again. "Now." The big guy laughed. "Or what? You'll call the cops again?" "Yes. Go ahead. By the time they get here, we'll be gone. And next time, maybe we won't be so friendly." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency?" "I have 7 people dealing drugs in my apartment who refuse to leave." That got everyone moving. Within 30 seconds, my apartment was empty except for Brandon, Callie, and me. "You just made a huge mistake," Brandon said as he packed up his scale. "The only mistake I made was letting you stay here in the first place." "We'll see about that." Police arrived 10 minutes later, but of course there was no evidence of what had happened. No drugs, no strangers, no crime in progress. But I had recorded the whole thing on my phone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the big guy's threat and Brandon's promise that I'd made a mistake. At 3 a.m., I heard scratching sounds coming from my front door. I crept to the peephole and looked out. Brandon was in the hallway with 2 other guys, and one of them was doing something to my lock. They were trying to change the locks on my own apartment. I called 911 again. "This is Jackie Thompson at 1247 Oak Street, apartment 3B. Someone is tampering with my door lock." This time, police arrived in 4 minutes. They caught Brandon and his friends red-handed with lock-picking tools and a new deadbolt. "We live here," Brandon told the officers. "We're just improving security." "Ma'am," the lead officer asked me, "is this man on your lease?" "No, he's an unauthorized occupant I'm trying to evict." "Sir, do you have any documentation showing you live here?" Brandon couldn't produce anything official. No lease, no utility bills, no mail with his name and my address. "Sir, you're under arrest for attempted breaking and entering." As they handcuffed Brandon, he looked right at me. "This isn't over," he said. But he was wrong. It was definitely over. With Brandon in jail, I served Callie with official eviction papers the next morning. "You have 24 hours to vacate," I told her. "The notice cites illegal drug activity and violations of our lease agreement." Callie stared at the papers. "Jackie, please, I have nowhere to go." "You should have thought about that before you helped your boyfriend deal drugs from my apartment." "I never helped him. I have video footage of you counting money with him." "That wasn't drug money." "Then what was it?" She couldn't answer. "Callie, I loved having you here when you were following our agreement, but you chose Brandon over family. You chose drugs over safety. You chose theft over respect." "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she whispered. But it did. And now you have 24 hours. She packed her things that afternoon. As she loaded her suitcases into her car, she turned to me. I'm sorry, Jackie, I really am. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix what you did. Will you ever forgive me? Maybe, but not while you're still defending him. She drove away without another word. Brandon was released on bail 2 days later, but by then Callie had already found a new place. He showed up at my apartment building once, but my landlord had banned him from the property. The narcotics division used my video evidence to build a case against him. 3 months later, he was convicted of drug dealing and sentenced to 2 years in prison. I recovered most of my stolen items when police searched his storage unit. The total value was actually close to $3,000, not counting the damage to my apartment and the emotional trauma. It's been 8 months since I evicted Callie and had Brandon arrested. My apartment feels like home again. I can sleep without checking the locks 3 times. I can come home from work without wondering what disaster is waiting for me. Callie and I talk now, but things are different. She finally admitted that Brandon had been manipulating her from the beginning. He'd specifically targeted her because she had a sister with a nice apartment and a good job. He planned the whole thing, she told me over coffee last month. He made me think moving in with you was my idea. How long did you know about the drugs? From the 2nd week. But by then, I was scared of him too. He said if I told you, he'd make sure we both got in trouble. So you chose to protect him instead of me. I was scared, Jackie, and I was stupid. It took time, but I eventually forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because holding on to anger was hurting me more than her. Brandon tried to contact me from prison twice. Both times, I refused the calls and returned his letters unopened. I also learned that I wasn't his first victim. Police found evidence that he'd run similar scams with at least 3 other women, always targeting sisters or roommates with stable housing and good jobs. This experience taught me several things I wish I'd known earlier. First, trust your instincts. From the moment I met Brandon, something felt wrong. I should have listened to that feeling instead of trying to be polite. Second, document everything. The video footage and photos I took were crucial in getting justice. Without evidence, it would have been my word against theirs. Third, know your rights. Understanding tenant law helped me navigate the eviction process correctly. Knowledge is power, especially when someone is trying to take advantage of you. Fourth, family loyalty has limits. I loved my sister, but that didn't give her the right to endanger me or my home. Sometimes protecting yourself means making hard choices about the people you care about. Finally, don't be afraid to call the police. I hesitated because I didn't want to ruin Brandon's life or hurt my relationship with Callie. But they were already ruining my life, and my safety was more important than their comfort. Today, I'm still in the same apartment, but I've made some changes. Better locks, a more sophisticated security system, and very clear boundaries about guests. I also volunteer with a local organization that helps people navigate tenant law. It's amazing how many people find themselves in situations similar to mine. Family members who overstay welcome, friends who take advantage of kindness, partners who refuse to respect boundaries. The law exists to protect you, I tell them, but only if you're willing to use it. Callie is doing better now. She has her own place, a steady job, and she's been in therapy to understand why she kept choosing bad relationships. We have dinner once a month, and while things aren't the same as before, we're rebuilding trust slowly. She never asks to stay over, and I never offer. Some boundaries, once broken, need to stay firm. As for Brandon, he'll be released next year. I've already spoken to my landlord about keeping him banned from the building, and I have a restraining order in place. I'm not afraid of him anymore. I learned that standing up for yourself gets easier with practice. The first time is terrifying, but each time after that, you get a little stronger. People always say family comes first, but I learned that saying can be dangerous when family members are hurting you. Real family, the kind worth protecting, doesn't steal from you, endanger you, or invite criminals into your home. Real family respects your boundaries, contributes to your life instead of draining it, and chooses your safety over their own convenience. Callie wasn't acting like family when she helped Brandon deal drugs from my apartment. She was acting like someone who'd chosen a dangerous stranger over her own sister. I don't regret evicting her. I don't regret having Brandon arrested. I regret that it took me so long to protect myself. If you're in a similar situation, if someone is taking advantage of your kindness, violating your boundaries, or making you feel unsafe in your own home, please know that you have options. You have rights. You have the power to change your situation. It might be scary. It might be uncomfortable. It might hurt relationships that matter to you, but you matter too. Your safety matters. Your peace of mind matters. Your home should be your sanctuary, not your prison. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive choices. Sometimes protecting yourself means letting other people face the consequences of their actions. And sometimes having someone arrested is exactly the wake-up call they need to change their life. What do you think? Did I do the right thing by having Brandon arrested and evicting my sister? Should I have given them more chances, or was I right to protect myself? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own safety? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please remember to subscribe and like this video and enjoy the next one that's just popped up on your screen.